you believe that there is a method of teaching? You said the private schools are not teaching as good as the public. You think that there's a method of teaching that there's sort of low hanging fruit that nobody is using? Can you talk about that a little bit? I remember seeing a blog post on this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for decades, literally for decades, we've known that there's a method called direct instruction, which has been tested in serious randomized controlled trials against other methods. And it almost always comes out on top in literally hundreds of studies. So not like one or two or three, hundreds of studies in education have shown that this method, direct instruction, works better than other methods. And it actually makes sense in the sense that direct instruction uh, codifies for, you're going to teach reading, you're going to teach mathematics, division, multiplication. It codifies a method of doing that. It tests that method repeatedly until you have, ironed out all of the kinks. And then you write that method down. Okay. And then teachers follow the script, and they just follow the script. Okay. And the teachers, by and large, kind of hate this idea because they want to be free flowing and every student is different and, different methods, different ways of thinking. And no, that's all wrong. Okay. There is like one way of doing it. I'm exaggerating, but um, the method which really works is to figure out what's best and then mass manufacture, then have all the kids together. They work on it together and the teacher follows the script. And this method, although it looks, um, it doesn't meet the humanistic goals of the teachers. It meets the goals of the students in that the students move through the material more quickly. They learn the material. They're not bored because they're learning more quickly. They're keeping up. And despite the fact that direct instruction has been shown to be superior in hundreds of studies, it has not taken off the way it really
It's not
should.
about it's not about the, or it is. I mean, partly it's only partly about the standardization, right? Does direct instruction mean, okay, like if I'm going to teach economics, I just put the supply and demand, the graph up there, and I just keep beating in your head, and you just keep like staring at it? How does it like work sort of operationally? Is it just telling you things instead of you figuring it out for yourself?
No, not really. It involves a lot of uh, a call out to the class. Okay, you know, what comes after this letter, and then everybody shouts out. Okay, so it involves kind of almost like a military, call and repeat, and so there's a lot of structure to it. There's a lot of structure to it, but you can move through the material more quickly. So it's not, students don't think that it's boring.
Is this what people call like teaching to the test? Like there's just a right answer, and we're just going to tell you what it is, and we're not going to have any other frills or anything else.
So the direct instruction is most applicable, to uh, where there is a set of skills that you want people to learn. Okay, as opposed to when you get into higher ed and you want to try and teach people how to discover new knowledge. Right, that's a sort of a different area where you need more one-on-one, kind of apprenticeship training, the way we have with graduate students, things like that. So it's not a way of getting rid of graduate school or apprenticeship training, but for the reading, writing, arithmetic, it's phonics based, for example, right? So the trend up until very recently has been literally the teachers say, well, you don't know what this word is. Well, look at the picture. Yes. Okay. Which is a totally unprincipled, literally unprincipled method of teaching. Okay. Like, oh, there's a dog. Guess that this word is dog. While what you really want to do is, teach a phonics, and the phonics method is sound it out. Right.
Well,
And yeah,
why hasn't some just charter school or private school done this and then gone and shown the results to the state legislature or education researchers or whatever? And it's not
right,
exactly a free market, but it's something of a market. You think they could do
yeah.
that?
So there's a few examples of that. There's the Tails Academy in North Carolina. They have done just exactly what you suggest. Um, yeah, why? You know, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna start sounding like you. There's a conspiracy in the teachers unions. There's been some attempt to do it internationally. Schools have been doing it, but yeah, it just hasn't. And it's not that it's unknown, um, but it hasn't taken over. That's for sure.
Is it, as you said, the teachers don't like it? Could the students not? Might the students not like it? I mean, that doesn't sound like the funnest classroom experience. Is it just some parents are reacting to what students want, and students want things other than just they don't even care if they're learning, but the parents want their kids to be happy in addition to them learning things, and maybe
Right,
this isn't conducive to human happiness.
right. As far as we can tell, the students are fine. The students enjoy it. It's the teachers who feel that they have been because you are following a script, so the teachers become actors, right? Instead of becoming, you know, entrepreneurs or artists, right? Where they're trying to come up with new ways, which is really silly when you think about it, right? Like there's some teacher in Nebraska who's going to come up with a new way of teaching reading, and that's going to be better than something which has been tested on hundreds of thousands of students and tried out in multiple different ways. Like, not only is that like really unlikely, um, it's sort of pointless in the sense that that teacher is going to teach, 30 students per year for 30 years, like 900 students, total in his career. Okay. So, like, the gains there are so little, which is why the standardization is important because, then if everyone is following the script, everybody gets the benefit of the improvement in productivity. Right. So this does go back to what we're talking about with services like, um, mass manufacturing, why does it get cheaper over time? Well, because when you make an improvement, and maybe it's just some like tiny improvement, you reduce the amount of material used by 1%. Okay. You improve you lower the defect rate, by 1%. But you do that year after year after year. And then that builds up and you get mass improvements in productivity. But now, if you have a 1% improvement in teaching quality, how does that scale? Right? It can only scale if people are following a script. And if they're not willing to do that, if teachers are not willing to kind of follow a script, then you're not going to get this improvement in productivity over time.
Mhm. Do does it matter? I mean, in the long run, because there's learning loss. I mean, the people don't remember what they do in school. I mean, is it the most important thing in the world whether kids get things that they retain things better when they're first grade, second grade, third grade? Maybe in a relative sense it does because they can get better degrees and credentials, but does that necessarily make society more productive?
I mean, societies, which are better educated have better outcomes on a wide range of metrics. So I think that's one thing which,
Well, direction. I mean,
I'm,
there's a big direction of cause. I mean, there's a big direction
of
of causation.
course, yeah, yes, of course. So, but that is one thing which I think makes, you know, I, I'm, uh, I'm pretty much behind, Brian Kaplan, argues that a huge amount of the premium for education, as you know, is signaling. And I think that makes total sense, particularly at the university level. Like it's hard to understand why somebody who gets a degree in art history is paid more than somebody who went to, work in a factory for 4 years, even if they end up in the same job, right? It's got to be signaling. But it's not all the engineers are not signaling. They're not only signaling. I think Brian says like 50%, is his sort of, modal estimate of the amount. Well, 50% is not signaling. Let's improve that 50%, the productivity of that 50%. And I would say as you get down to, high school and even earlier, then like, 60-70% is human capital building and only 30% is signaling. So let's improve that 60 to 70%.
Yeah, because you're getting what, basic reading skills. You're getting basic arithmetic. People just being able to, yeah,
Yeah,
that
and it's look, it's not natural to think logically. And it's just not natural, to I mean, reading is not as it's not a natural thing to do. There's no other animal which reads as far as I know. So reading is not natural, but it's incredibly important. So yeah, I think mathematics is not natural. So I and it's kind of scary that the literacy rate even in the United States, when you measure at the adult, the literacy rate, people who can read a paragraph and explain in their own words what that paragraph means, it's a surprisingly low percentage.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, there's human limit. It's like, it's like, oh, people cannot bench, 250 pounds. It's like smart people look at that, and it's like a bodybuilder looking at, people and saying, look at these puny weaklings. Like, it's really scary. They could all be, they could
Yeah.
all be Arnold Schwarzenegger. And sometimes I think, we might not have, realistic explanations here, but expectations here. But no, I
Yeah.
take your point that, we can hopefully, have some improvements.